Let's get into the next one. Okay, so pretty easy keep. We have turn 3 Tron with a Worm Coil Engine, Ancient Stirrings on turn 4 to go look for something else, and Lake Haven Ulamog. Pretty simple. Unclaimed territory into Champion the Parish, and it's obviously humans. So for this matchup, obviously we want interaction as soon as possible, but it's possible that turn 3 Worm Coil is good enough. However, this turn 4 Ugin will hopefully be good enough, so we'll see what they do. Obviously, they're going to Meddling Mage on Worm Coil Engine. We're going to crack the Expedition map, take 4 damage here, get our Tron, play this, jam this this Relic Progenitus, hope to draw something in interaction. No. So we have either Ulamog next turn or Ugin. However, we take a ton of damage and go down to 4. And from here, pretty simple, Ugin, wipe the board. The main reason why we don't want to play Ulamog here, should probably say that, the main reason why we don't want to play Ulamog here is because if we Ulamog, kill 2 of their creatures, it has to be the flyer, and it has to be, and it doesn't matter anyways. The whole reason why we play Ugin here instead of Ulamog is if they have Xaxes Mantis Rider, we just lose, because we'll take the 3 damage for the Mantis Rider no matter what, and then we'll take at least 1 damage from the 3 attackers they have left over. So that's why we have to play Ugin here. What the? Oh, Moto, you're so funny. Alright, play the Ugin, crack our star, get another land, so we don't have to take damage from this Horizon Canopy to be able to play World Breaker. And they have the Mantis Rider, so we would have lost if we played Ulamog, so good thinking about that. We're at 1, so we just kill that, play the Ulamog, kill the Ether Vial in the uncharted territory, or unclaimed territory. Oh, sorry, we didn't kill the Ether Vial. Okay. I think we didn't kill the... Oh, we didn't kill the Ether Vial because they couldn't Mantis Rider us anyway, so it's not a big deal. So now, just play land go. Here, we just play World Breaker, kill that. They play something. Kite Self Rebooter, look at our hand of just all gas. We Ugin plus the Kite Self Rebooter, and they're just very dead. Simple, easy. Ugin is usually pretty GG against them if they can't actually kill it. So here we go to game 2. We mulligan that last hand because it didn't really do anything. This hand has possible turn 3 Tron, and given we draw 1 more Tron piece, it has a draw effect to dig us deeper, and obviously if we hit the Tron, Walking Ballista on 3 is very good, as is Ugin on turn 4. So they have a turn 1 Ether Vial. We peel Sphere, play the Star just in case they have Artifact Destruction. They play Thalia, which is nice. Against us, we can't play the Sylvan Scrying now, but we can play Walking Ballista and kill the Thalia. Main reason why we do it, kill the creature on the main phase, is Aether Vial would go to 2, and if they have the Thalia's Lieutenant, it's very problematic for us. Now we just get to jam Thragtusk here, having drawn Tron, and they're hugely on the back foot. Obviously, that's a nice target for the Illusion, but at this point, we're at 25. They have a 1/1 Champion of the Parish, and we can just very easily win with any of the cards in our hand. So now we just play Ugin, wipe the board, and from there it's pretty academic for the most part. They have, Mantis Rider here, which they don't. They have Vithian Renegades, which is actually pretty sweet. I haven't seen Vithian Renegades in a while from that deck. But from here, they had to have Xaxes, Mantis Rider or something like that, but now we just have Ugin active, Karn goes out of control, and from here it's kind of just, once again, academic. We have a removal spell in Dismember, we're at a super healthy life total of 25, and we have 2 Planeswalkers kind of just destroying them. So from here, they have no cards, no gas, we just have a million removal spells, and it's just very game over, honestly. I don't see how they could possibly come back from this. Like, even if they drew like Mantis Rider, Mantis Rider, Mantis Rider, Mantis Rider, like, it's not going to matter. But yeah, drew the forest, but they just concede. Easy peasy. I guess I should go over how we sideboard for that one. Give me 1 sec. So for that matchup, obviously, it's all about interaction. They go as fast as possible with some light disruption, so we just want to stymie them so we can actually play our spells. So obviously we bring in any removal spells we have, so that means Dismember and Spatial Contortion. We bring in the Thragtusk, like you saw. It's a Supreme Roadblock, obviously gaining 5 life, super important. Being able to block a very large Champion of the Parish, or just trade with anything, is super important. Obviously them having Phantasmal Image is a thing, and obviously them copying Thragtusk is not the best for us, but it's a small price we have to pay. And I like bringing in at least a couple Nature's Claims. Worst case scenario, they kill an Ether Vial, which not that bad. Best case scenario, they could have Damping Sphere. I've even seen versions with Stony Silence, so being able to hit those is very, very important. And, you know, the worst case scenario, you can just kill your own artifact to gain 4 life, so that comes up sometimes. And the cards we cut, just the cards that really don't do anything. Relic of Progenitus, obviously, they're not a graveyard deck, we don't need it. Excuse me. Worldbreaker, there's not any super important artifacts, enchantments, or lands we're killing, so that can go. A couple Karn, because they're once again a go wide deck, not a go large deck. So we cut that, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6. And we're bringing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 more cards, and they are Wormcoil Engines. So you'd think Wormcoil Engine's got to be good against, an aggressive deck like Humans, right? That's just, a 6 mana, play it on turn 3, lifelink, death touch, get value. But surprisingly, it's in testing, it hasn't been super great. They have Reflector Mage to bounce it, which sets you back hugely. They have the ability to copy it with Phantasmal Image, which also is kind of problematic. You just gave them a 2 mana 6/6 lifelink death touch, so not the best. And when you Oblivion Stone it, obviously they'll get the Wormcoil Engine tokens, so once again, not the best. So I find that Thragtusk in general is better against the Wormcoil Engine. You'll always gain the 5 life, which is very important, rather than just having them just bounce it immediately. You gain nothing, you lose extreme tempo. At least if they bounce the Thragtusk, you've gained the 5 life, and you get the 3/3, which are both important modes. So yeah, that's how we sideboard for that. And let's go into next match. Alright, what's this match? Alright. So, with this hand, once again, this is like a play-draw dependent draw. So this hand, obviously, we can go... The best possibles is obviously we just draw a Tron land, because then we just have turn 3 Karn. Best possibles. Worst case scenario, obviously, we play the tower, play the star, crack the star for a green source. So we draw a card for our turn, draw a card off the star, and then we Ancient Stirrings, drawing looking at 5 more cards. So, we're most likely going to find either a Tron land or, worst case scenario, another land. Then we can Sylvan Scrying from there, and then hopefully we'll just get Assemble Tron. Not too difficult. It's a pretty reasonable hand. We have the turn 3 Karn if we get there, and later in the game we have the Ulamog. So in most scenarios, I would keep this hand. Obviously, could be matchup dependent. If they're like a heavy discard hand, it gets worse. So if they're a heavy discard deck like Shadow or the like, then it's obviously much worse, but obviously we're on the blind, so we just have to keep hands like this. One Swept Peep and Temple Garden into Gladecover Scout. So we're playing its Boggles, obviously. We didn't hit the land off of the draw step or the star, but we hit the land off of the Ancient Stirrings. So we have a nice turn 3 Tron, turn 4 Tron here. They have a really, really good start in double Ethereal Armor, but as you can see, they go kind of ballistic and they almost have a turn 3 kill. But luckily for us, we have access to Oblivion Stone here, so we just wait until their attack step. We're going to Oblivion Stone, blow up all their enchantments, and they're left with just the Gladecover Scout because the Spider Umber saves it. And then from there, it's kind of academic because we have Ulamog and Karn. Obviously, drawing another Oblivion Stone means we can just do it again, and from there, it's kind of just game over for the most part. Game 1. We can't really do a lot more versus it. So we blow this up, kills everything but the Gladecover Scout, take 1. They have no reach. Place Core Spirit Dancer. We just play another Oblivion Stone. We blow it up immediately, so they can't get any draw triggers off their Core Spirit Dancer, and they're left with 1 card in their hand, and we have double Karn and Ulamog. They do have another Core Spirit Dancer, which is obviously very good, but now we just have Ulamog, and the game is over. I'm not sure if they concede right here, but I think they just have like a path or something like that, but I'm fairly certain they should concede. Yeah, they have path, sure, whatever. But yeah, so we have World Breaker, double Karn. They draw for a turn, they're dead. Surprise, surprise. So game 2. So this hand is a turn 4 Tron with Oblivion Stone or Wormcoil Engine, so can't really complain. Obviously, if we draw the natural piece of Tron, we can go from there. They have turn 1 Glavecarver Scout. We just have nothing. They have Rancor into Spider Umbra, so that's a nice quick 4 damage. We have nothing again, unfortunately, so they have Open the Armory into Ethereal Armor. We take 7. We unfortunately drew another nothing. We have the turn 4 Tron, but they have the turn 4 kill on their draw. So, unfortunately, they were too fast for us, obviously, with us having just actual nothing. So yeah, once again, play draw matters immensely. If we were on the play that game, I don't think we could have lost. But now we have roughly the nuts. We have turn 3 Tron with a Nature's Claim and an Ugin. Once Ugin hits the battlefield, it's kind of just game over. They have a nice one in Gag-Teeg, which actually is pretty good against us here. We have the Tron, crack a bunch of eggs, play more eggs, play more eggs, play Ancient Stirrings, grab another forest, get a Karn. Didn't draw much from that, but now next turn we can go O-Stone. Here I like our play here. Instead of going for the O-Stone, we go for the Nature's Claim. We kill both their enchantments here. We take an easy 3, and then next turn we can just play an Oblivion Stone. Blow up their board. And they don't really have much. They can survive with the Dryad Arbor because it doesn't get killed by Oblivion Stone, but we still get to wipe up the board with our O-Stone. We take 1, go to 10. They have a Glavecarver Scout afterwards, but we just have the Ugin, and the game is over. I like playing it out because obviously we're both like 4-0 at this point, so there's no point in not playing it out, but I mean, it's very difficult for them to actually beat Ugin the Spirit Dragon. And now we just Ulamog, kill their 2 lands, and they just concede. But yeah, play draw, hugely important. I guess I should go over once again how we sideboard. I keep forgetting to do that. We should do that. Alright, so obviously, pretty simple. We want Thrytusk as roadblock. It's very good against them, except if they have Rancor. If they have Rancor, then it's unfortunate that it gets through, but it's still a hefty life chunk to gain, obviously. Nature's Claim, of course, is absurd because their entire deck is based around enchantments, so obviously a 1-mana kill an enchantment, super important. Excuse me. I like bringing in a Dismember because they have 2 creatures we need to kill, which is the Gag-Teeg and the Core Spirit Dancer. Technically, they have... Technically, they have Dryad Arbor as well, but obviously that's to a lesser extent. We just need to kill those 2 cards, and Dismember is just like a nice 1-mana thing to kill it immediately, rather than Spatial Contortion, which is 2 mana, and if they just go, like, turn to their creature or whatever, and we don't have the Spatial Contortion or whatever, it becomes absolutely obsolete immensely fast, where Dismember is sometimes, like, still always good. And, yeah, we take out Relic of Progenitus, because it's not really helpful or really does much of anything, and we take out a Ballista because it's a bit slower on the removal side, so it's not super duper great, and then we take out some number of Wormcoil Engines because it's possible that their creature just gets bigger than ours and has first strike, so obviously it's just obsolete, and they have path, so not super great as well from that. Fairly simple. So now we go into round 6. Alright, so obviously as you can see here, natural Tron, can't really complain. We play the Chromatic Sphere first, so we can Ancient Stirrings because we don't actually need to use the Expedition map. So now we go into Stirrings for Karn. We see Island, Scalding Tarn, Serum Visions, so this could usually mean a couple decks. It could be Blue Moon. It could be technically could be Storm with fetches. Remand usually leads me to believe more it's a Blue Moon strategy because Storm usually only has like one of them, and the Vendilion Clique usually confirms it for me that they're Blue Moon. So this matchup can be a little difficult if they have the nice early Blood Moon, but they tapped out for Vendilion Clique, and we have the Karn here. We plus the Karn, so there's basically no way of actually killing it, because if we minus it, they can just have a Bolt. Very easy to kill. If we plus it, the only way they can actually get rid of it is bouncing it with Cryptic Command. So we have the turn 4 Karn, and they concede because they don't really have a way of actually killing it. So obviously, they look like Blood Moon. So sideboard for Blood Moon. Blue Moon. So this is a keep against Blue Moon. So the main reason is because we have a lot of inevitability with our stars, and they're a much slower deck, so you don't have to worry about dying like hyper early. So hands like this are very acceptable. Relic of Progenitus is very good against them because they usually rely on Snapcaster very heavily, and then obviously stars and spheres can go help us draw more lands, and then of course Thrike Tusk is a very solid threat. They have to kill it twice or counter it, and eventually it'll come down and it'll be very nice. So they lead on Polluted Delta, which obviously throws me off because usually a deck like Blue Moon wouldn't play that. So we just slam down the Relic and pass. Thought-Knot Seer is a nice draw here. Double Tower is not usually the best, but there's nothing we'd really do about that. So we'll just play our Relic, play our Star. They fetch out of Steam Vents, we get rid of their fetch land, and now we see, unfortunately, this Watery Grave. So now we're just like, oh, I guess it's like Grixis Control. I mean, technically it could still be Blue Moon, just like a weird version of Blue Moon. They have black for, say, a Engineering Explosives or something like that. Play Snapcaster, so it still looks like Blue Moon to me, but then they play Field of Ruin, so now I'm just like, I guess they're just like Grixis Control or something like that, so that's unfortunate. So obviously we sideboard a little differently based on what we thought they were, but for the most part it's generally like the same. Get the power plant here, obviously, because we have the second tower. We play the power plant here because it's better if they kill this one rather than Urza's tower, because we only have 2 left in our deck. And right now, as we can see, like, we don't really know what they're playing. They're kind of just playing cards at the most part. So Thought-Knot Seer meets no resistance. They play Scalding Tarn, getting a Blood Crypt. So now we're definitely thinking they're on Grixis Control. They have Surgical Extraction for our tower, but luckily for us, we held open our Relic to Relic ourselves. And as we saw here, all they had was nothing. They just didn't have anything. They had no spells whatsoever. Their only spell was Surgical Extraction. So they drew another Field of Ruin, which is unfortunate. Now we're pretty far off of Tron. We go into a Thrike Tusk here because we only saw they had nothing. So obviously being able to cast Thrike Tusk here is pretty nice. Beat down for 4. Opt. So now I'm just like, I guess they're just Grixis Control. Like, doesn't seem that great, but they're at 9. We can play most of our cards. We play the Walking Ballista to play around Remand here, but they unfortunately drew Cryptic Command to fog us and counter our Walking Ballista. So now we're at this point where we're just like, I guess they're on the Cryptic Command chain, where they just like have Snapcaster Cryptic Command, but we have the Relic, so we can play around that nicely. They have Deceiver Exarch, so obviously now we know we've extremely sideboarded poorly, because now they're just the Kiki Jiki Deceiver Exarch deck. So they're basically blue-red with the Kiki Jiki combo. So now obviously we sided out, we didn't bring in removal spells, so this Deceiver Exarch is like very unkillable outside of, say, Oblivion Stone or the Ugin we have in our hand. So obviously we've mis-sideboarded because, well, we didn't really see anything, so that's the advantage of this kind of deck. So now, obviously, we're in deep trouble if they just have Kiki Jiki, because obviously, as you can see, we can't actually cast any spells. So, unfortunate, but now we have to dig for an out to this Deceiver Exarch. We're still drawing nothing. We draw a land, Urza's Mine, which is not bad. We jam here because they're at 5 life total, forcing a block. They go down to 1. We play the Wormcoil Engine. We'll play the Wormcoil Engine here, so if they have, say, another Snapcaster Mage or blocker, it doesn't give them another turn. And, yeah, so basically we know we can't beat Kiki Jiki, so we don't play around it. If they have the Kiki Jiki, they're going to play it no matter what, because they're dead on board, so there's no point in holding up, a removal spell. They're going to jam it no matter what. So there's no point in doing that. They Serum Visions, Opt, and unfortunately they draw Kiki-Jiki and we lose. So, on to game 3. We mulligan that last hand because it doesn't really have any interaction or any fast anything. This hand, not super great. In hindsight, I think I actually should have mulliganed this hand. Now looking at it again, I think I mainly kept it because Relic is actually pretty decent against them. It seemed they're pretty heavily leaning on Snapcaster Mage. And worst case scenario, if they do have, the early combo, hopefully we can break it up with like the Thought-Knot Seer. I think that was my thought logic here, but in hindsight, obviously, I think I should have mulliganed this hand. Our deck mulligans very well, so I think I shouldn't have been that scared. So, but oh well. Hindsight, obviously. Obviously, Urza's Tower, excellent draw for us. Now, if we just naturally draw the last piece, we can play the Karn. Worst case scenario, obviously, we just draw nothing. Expedition Map is the third piece, so we play it. We can have Tron next turn. Bearing, they don't have what's it called? Field of Ruin. They didn't have the Field of Ruin, so obviously super excellent for us. So now we just have to worry about them having a bunch of counter spells. So we get the last piece. Play the last piece. Play the Thought-Knot Seer. We're playing the Thought-Knot Seer here, and I'll pause it. We're playing the Thought-Knot Seer, obviously, to play around the Remand We've only seen them having 2 counter spells, which is Remand and Cryptic Command. So they obviously can't play the Cryptic Command because they only have 3 mana. So we play around the Remand, being able to play it. They remand it, we get to play it again, rather than playing the Karn. They have Vendilion Clique, targeting us. Take one of our Thragtusks. Get to see their hand. So this is actually a kind of an important thing here. Can't back it up, obviously. So their hand is, excuse me, negate, Kiki-Jiki, Kolaghan's Command, and remand. So we think about this for a while here, mainly because it's like kind of important. Their last card was Deceiver Exarch. So their main win condition here obviously is going to be Deceiver Exarch into Kiki-Jiki. So if we break that up, obviously they don't really have a win condition here other than these 2 creatures, Kolaghan's Command, whatever. And then they have to peel another Deceiver Exarch and still have 2 lands for the Kiki-Jiki. The remand we can play around given we have so much mana, so that's not super important. Negate obviously going to counter our Karn or Sylvan Scrying, but we still have this Thragtusk as a backup, so that's not a big deal. And Kolaghan's Command really doesn't do a lot here. They have no graveyard to get back cards. Worst case scenario, we have to block the Snapcaster Mage, or we attack him, they block with Snapcaster Mage, let it die, deal 2 damage to this, get it back. So that's the worst case scenario, but we still have the Relic to break that up. So I take the Deceiver Exarch so we don't die to the kind of a tempo play where they just tap this down, attack us for 5, attack us for 3. We lose to that race basically. So damn it, I did it again. I keep thinking I'm actually playing here. So we play our Sylvan Scrying, get our Sanctum of Ugin, because if we play the Karn, we can still get Walking Ballista or something here to clear the board out. So we play our Karn here, holding open an extra mana. They're most likely, we're thinking they're going to negate this. And they do, of course. We get our Walking Ballista, ping that, get rid of their negate. And we save the Walking Ballista because obviously we want to play it for 2 or more. Take another 3 here. I feel like trading for the Snapcaster Mage and the Kolaghan's Commands, not the super greatest. So we play the Walking Ballista for 4, same thing as this. And unfortunately, there's Ceremonious Rejection. So obviously, Ceremonious Rejection there for us is obviously very bad. We know they have the remand, so obviously we're playing around the remand, but Ceremonious Rejection just colds us completely. So unfortunate, but nothing we can really do about it. We'll get another Forest, so we don't take a lot of damage from this Horizon Canopy. So next turn, we can jam the Thragtusk. So we know they've played their negate, and we know they have these 3 cards along with their 2 cards in hand. So we crack the Relic here because we really need to start digging for things. Thought-Knot Seer is an excellent pickup here, but unfortunately they drew another Ceremonious Rejection. So now we can just jam the Thragtusk here, land the Thragtusk, get us back to a nice healthy 11, and then attack for the 4 since they've tapped out. And now the race is in our favor. However, they peel Field of Runes, so that's obviously very setback for us. Luckily, we have the Sylvan Scrying, but obviously we still know that they have this remand. They remanded to that, and unfortunately, we don't draw too much of action, but we still get Tron, Player Sphere, crack it, draw a nice card, so we're still in a decent race here. They're at 10 to our 7, but we have 9 points of damage in play. We know they have this Kolaghan's Command still. They've used this remand. So now we play the Thragtusk first because we can play it again. If they have remand, go back to 5. We attack with only the Thragtusk because if they have a Snapcaster Mage, it's pretty bad for us. But we've seen they've drawn the Deceiver Exarch, and we know they have Kiki-Jiki in their hand. So we are unfortunately dead. But luckily for us, they played around us having something, which obviously we do not have. We attack with these two. If we attack with all 3, it's not very good attack. They just block, and we still die. So obviously, we just play the Karn, hope they haven't drawn another counterspell. And unfortunately, they've drawn the Snapcaster number 3. So now they Ceremonious Rejection us. We only have 2 cards in our hand. However, they're going to play the Kiki-Jiki no matter what because they're just dead on board for the most part. So obviously we lose. So unfortunate, but it happens. Obviously, game 2, they caught us with our pants down because we obviously didn't sideboard appropriately. So not really much we could do about that. So let's get into round 7. So we have a nice turn 3 Tron into either Wormcoil Engine or Walking Ballista, so easy keep. Flameblade Adept leads me to believe they're Hollow One. So we have a pretty nice draw in turn 3 Wormcoil Engine against them, so usually that's pretty lights out. However, they have this draw, which is triple Flameblade Elite. So Wormcoil Engine actually here is no good, and we'll go over why. So Wormcoil Engine here, it can't block any of the Flameblade Adepts. So for example, if they just go like, Faithless Looting into draw 3, discard 3, that's 18 damage we're taking, and we're just dead basically. So there's no point in playing the Wormcoil Engine. So we end up playing the Walking Ballista for 3, which lets us kill one of them. So it's almost impossible for them to kill us on their turn. So as we see, they have the Faithless Looting. They have the Faithless Looting, they have a Street Wraith, and that's already, 12 points of damage coming across. So if they had any draw discard spell here, we would have lost if we played the Wormcoil Engine. So we kill the Flameblade Adept, take 8, go to 11. They have a Lightning Bolt, which is unfortunate for us, because now we have no double blockers for these two. They have a nice Tassiger here, but Wormcoil Engine should be pretty good here, as they only have 1 card in their hand, so they have to have Xaxes, double draw discard spell for us to die to these cards. They lead off on the Faithless Looting, discarding 2 cards. So their last cards have to be Xaxes land, and it has to be this card Xaxes. So that's how we lose, unfortunately. They have the perfects, so nothing we can really do about it, unfortunately. They had to have Xaxes. They had the draw discard spell in their graveyard already, but their last 2 cards had to be land, draw 3, discard 3. And it has to be the 1 mana draw discard 3, because if it's just another Faithless Looting, that's only 10 damage, which brings us down to 1. So it has to be the draw 3, discard 3, and unfortunately we had it. So they had it. So it is what it is. Off to game 2. So this hand, main reason I'm keeping this hand is we're on the play, and really all we need here is like 1 or 2 lands in order to just kind of mop them up. Didn't draw a land immediately, but we have the Ancient Stirrings, and unfortunately we hit the worst land possible, which is the second Power Plant. Here, if they have the removal spell here for our Expedition map, we're in kind of a big problem, but they don't, and we peel Tower, which is probably the best possibles. We get to play another map, which leads them to believe we're like hedging on this map very hardly, so it's possible they just go discard. They try and immediately kill it, which wastes their turn. They have a Flame Blade Adept and a Maximized Velocity, which is a pretty spicy addition to that deck. Doesn't seem like they have a lot more going for them, as with the 3 cards in hand, all they had was Maximized Velocity and deal us 3 points of damage. So they have nothing. We get to play Tron, play Oblivion Stone here, which cleans up this board nicely. They have the double Flamewake Phoenix too, so in order to get them back, they have to do this. They force us to crack the Oblivion Stone, which is fine. We lose the Expedition map, but I don't think it's that important here. We already have all the lands we need for the most part. They obviously don't use their last mana to bring back the Blood Crypt, which leads me to believe they have a Gurmag Angler, but we have to blow up the board because we can't take 8. They have a Thoughtseize, takes our Wormcoil Engine, but now we get to jam the Thragtusk, and my thought was right, they have a Gurmag Angler. So next turn, I forgot about that one. They have the Hollow one too, which is actually the worst case scenario for us. So we Ancient Stirrings here, grab an Oblivion Stone. So the main reason for that play, instead of just playing the Thragtusk, is if we just play the Thragtusk, we go up to 19, which is nice obviously, but now they would get to draw for their turn, bring back both Flamewake Phoenixes, and maximize Velocity, putting this as a 6/6. So I have to trade with this, take 10 damage from this, putting me to 9. Now all I have is a 3/3, and they have Gurmag Angler plus the 2 Phoenixes, which kills me next turn, basically. So we have to go get something better than Thragtusk here. And of course we found the Oblivion Stone, which obviously is the best one possible. So now they have 3 Flamewake Phoenixes. So super glad, obviously, we didn't play the Thragtusk. We blow up their board. Obviously don't want to take 1,000,000 damage. And now they're left with 1 card in hand. And it appears that nothing. So now we just cleanly play this. Grab Ugin, and we play the Thragtusk here rather than the Ugin, because if they peel another big mana creature, they can just deal 6 to us with the Flamewake Phoenixes or to the Ugin, and we wouldn't be able to do much with the Ugin, so I'd rather save this in case they drew another spell. So Street Rave from them puts us to 10. They peel Tatasker, brings back 2 Phoenixes. We go to 15, but now from here it's pretty academic. We just have the Ugin here, mop up the board. We go Sylvan Scrying into Sanctum of Ugin, so we can get another threat from the Ugin. Play Ugin, wipe the board after going to get a Ulamog. And from here, we have a Beast, we have 15 life points, and, it's pretty difficult for them to win here, considering we have Ugin, the Beast token, and now we get to play Ulamog the next turn. And they concede. So, Game 3. The main reason I keep this is because we have the Relic of Progenitus to prevent them from having a fast Delve creature. We also have a reasonable chance of getting, turn 3, turn 4 Tron with the double Sphere and Star and the Expedition map. They lead off with Thoughtseize, take my map. Lucky for us, we drew a second one. We lead off in the Star here because we're not in a rush to use this map here. We'd rather wait and see if we draw a second piece, so we can just go get the third piece cleanly. Crack our land, we do get the third piece. We crack their graveyard so they can't play the Delve threat next turn. They Burning Inquiry us. This is kind of important. They Burning Inquiry us, and we lose the Thragtusk, the Ancient Stirrings, and the... we lose these 3. So we lose these 3, obviously kind of unfortunate, but now we have the Karn, we have a removal spell for their any of their Delve threats or... any other Delve threats or Hollow one, and we still have this Expedition map, can go get the last piece, or we have the Sylvan Scrying to do that as well. So we play the map, it uses the most amount of mana. They have a Goblin Lore into a Hollow one. They have double Bloodghast and Flamewake Phoenix in their graveyard, so go get the last piece of Tron, play the Karn, and here I decide to exile one of the lands, considering we have the Dismember and we have a full life total, so we just can take out the Dismember. They didn't play a land last turn, so they're very obviously stuck on mana, so cutting off mana so they can't play, Goblin Lore, they can't play anything like that, and they can only really do one action per turn. So we can cleanly Dismember this. They have nothing. They can only play one spell, which whatever basically we play, we have an answer to in Karn. We exile it, play the Sylvan Scrying, go get Canopy, play Oblivion Stone, which we can crack immediately. And obviously we draw Thragtusk here, which is obviously nice because they're at 8 life. Crack the Canopy, see if we draw anything better. Play the Thragtusk, and from here, pretty much over for the most part. Yeah. So even if they draw a land to get back their 2 Bloodghast, that doesn't do anything. They're on a 2-turn clock from this Thragtusk, plus we have Oblivion Stone, and we can use the first Mono Oblivion Stone to make sure the Thragtusk doesn't die, so we can wipe their creatures, our Thragtusk lives, and yeah. Pretty simple. How we sideboard for that matchup. We bring in the Dismember, obviously. We bring in some number of Nature's Claims because it can kill a early hollow one, and I've seen them sometimes having what's it called, Damping Sphere, which I think is kind of poopy in that matchup. Sorry, in that deck in general, but I've definitely seen it being played, and it's kind of just a hedge. I'd rather have it than not. And worst case scenario, we can kill our own card to gain 4 life, which is actually very important in some scenarios. Obviously, we bring in the Thragtusk. It's just a huge roadblock for them to deal with. It trades evenly with all of their creatures, except for the Flamewake Phoenix, and obviously gaining 5 life is important. And yeah, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't bring in the Surgical Extractions because the graveyard creatures aren't actually usually what kills us. It's them having, you know, a super fast Hollow one, super fast Gurmag Angler, and us not having anything. Same goes with the Spatial Contortions. You might think they're alright, but all they do is kill Bloodghast, which is not great. They kill Flamewake Phoenix, also not great. The main reason is why you want them is it kills the 1/2, which is important. Obviously, if we had one against the draw they had in game 1, it would have been excellent. But overall, I think it's not so hot. We end up cutting... let's see here. Where do we end up cutting? I'm trying to think here off the top of my head. We cut a little bit of Karn, a little bit of Walking Ballista, because Walking Ballista doesn't actually kill really much of anything. It shoots down the 1/2s and like the smaller creatures. But once again, the most important things are the bigger creatures, and this clearly doesn't kill it unless we have 10 mana. So if we have 10 mana, we're usually winning anyways. So there's that. And yeah, we cut the World Breaker. It does kill a hollow one in a pinch, but I don't really think that's where we want to be. So that's let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We bring in 6 cards. So I think we cut. I feel like we cut 1 Ulamog, because if we're already at that level of mana, we should be already winning anyways. Oh, sorry. Another reason why we bring in Nature's Claim, sometimes Hollow One plays Blood Moon, and obviously, like, Blood Moon is obviously something we want to deal with. It's usually fallen out of favor nowadays, but, I mean, people still play it if they want to play it, really. It's not that difficult to play it in that deck, to be honest with you. So round 8, we play... win the die roll. Go down to 5, unfortunately. Our first hand didn't have anything. Our second hand had no lands. So, obviously, this is an okay keep if we draw a land, but obviously, we are seeing that they are most likely Death Shadow, and unfortunately, we haven't drawn a land yet. Excuse me. Crack the Sphere, and we drew Ancient Strings, which is obviously excellent. We got a mine, get to play this map, so we're not actually in a bad shape here. They have Serum Visions into a 5/5, and from here it's not that bad for us. We play a land every turn. We get to have Tron next turn. They Thoughtseize us, obviously. Unfortunately, they have Temur Battle Rage, and we have one more turn, so it's possible we get to activate this O-Stone to save us. We have the Walking Ballista block as well, so we hopefully don't die. But they have the Dismember here, puts them to 2 with the ping. And unfortunately, they have a Lightning Bolt. So, not much we can do about that. They usually only play like 2 Lightning Bolts and 2 Temur Battle Rage, so it's not like we can really play around it. And at that point, obviously, our hand wasn't that great, so there's nothing we can really do about it. So we keep this hand as its fairly resilient to discard spells. As we have the Spheres for redraw, we have a Relic to prevent them from casting a super fast Gurmag Angler, Ancient Stirrings to go get something else, and Dismember for the early removal spell as well. So overall, pretty solid hand. We start with the Relic just in case we start with the Relic just so they can't ever get really a super fast Gurmag Angler going. Scalding Tarn for Watery Grave, play Street Wraith. So here, it's fairly obvious that they have most likely a Stubborn Denial, so we lead off on the Ancient Stirrings. Unfortunately, we hit nothing off of it except for a Ghost Quarter, which is not really that relevant. We don't play the Expedition map or the Sphere because we don't want it to get Stubborn Denialed. We crack the Relic here in response to the Mishra's Bauble trigger, so they can't get a 5/5. Unfortunately, they have a nice fast Death Shadow here, and so on our turn, once again, we can play around the Stubborn Denial. We just go for the main phase Dismember. Unfortunately, they have Street Wraith and Stubborn Denial, so really nothing we can do about that. We Ancient Stirrings, whiff again on any Urza lands. So now we're at a mopey start, obviously. We can't really do anything. They have 7/7, tax us down to 9, and really if they have anything here, we're pretty dead since we've whiffed on Ancient Stirrings, we whiffed on all our draw steps for any sort of Tron land, and yeah, not great. So they literally can just have anything here and we lose. We go get the third Tron piece, but they have a 5-card hand. It's very unlikely we can win here. They could just have a counter spell, any shock land, and we lose, and surprise, surprise, they just have Temur Battle Rage, and we are dead, unfortunately. So, round 9 is the last round of the tournament. So, at this point, I believe I am 9th place. I'm either 9th place or 10th place, and I get paired against somebody who was 23rd, I want to say. And so they have no chance of top 8ing, and I have a chance of top 8ing. So, luckily for me, they just concede to me, because I can top 8 and they can't. So go me. I do know, however, what they were playing, and they were playing, what's it called? Ad Nauseam. Not a great matchup for me, but they have no way of top 8ing, so luckily for me, we can advance. So now we're playing against the person we lost to with the Kiki Jiki combo in the top 8. We mulligan to 6, see this hand, which is not bad. We have a nice possible turn 4 Tron with the Ancient Stirrings and Expedition map. We scry a Tron land to the top, so obviously this is a turn 3 Tron. Perfect for us. We have a Wormcoil Engine as well. So, unfortunately, they have the Field of Ruin here, which is the worst case scenario for us. They start off with a Snapcaster Mage to get their beatdown on early. Swamp, so now they have the Field of Ruin active, which pretty crummy for us. Luckily for us, we drew the natural Tron land, so at the end of our turn, we don't actually have to crack our Expedition map, because what we want to do is save the Expedition map for whatever land they target with Field of Ruin. So they targeted our power plant, we use the mana plus another mana to go fetch the land, play the land, go get Oblivion Stone here, and from here, now we have Tron. They have to have another Field of Ruin to stop us for the most part. Play the Mine, play Stirrings, try and find something nice, but we found an O-Stone, so not the worst case scenario. Play this Wormcoil Engine, obviously fully expecting it to get remanned, which it does. And now from here, they're trying to play as aggressively as possible. They drew another Field of Ruin, which is obviously very unfortunate for us. Obviously, we're hoping they target the tower, but of course, they've already targeted one power plant, so we'll target the next one. And here, we just jam the Oblivion Stone. They bolt us again. So here, it's pretty rough for us. We're in a pretty bad spot. Like, we can't really do anything here. We just have to play this land and pass. Because if they have a counterspell for the Wormcoil Engine, we just lose. They have the Cryptic Command here, so we just let it go. Bounce our land, so we just can never get drawn. We have to Oblivion Stone here, because we can't take any more damage, because we just died to, like, Snap Bolt. Player Star, hoping to draw just anything at this point, but obviously we keep drawing a big pile of nothing. We play this Walking Ballista out. just in case they have another Snapcaster Mage. They have Kolaghan's Command, which is the worst case scenario for us, getting back their Snapcaster Mage and killing our Walking Ballista. They play the Snapcaster Mage, surprisingly enough, on their turn, but they attack us for 2, put us to 4, and it's very obvious they just have like a million counter spells in their hand, which is the worst case scenario for us, obviously. We play our O-Stone because we really don't have anything else to do, and they just have Snapcaster Mage number 3, and we're just dead to their attacks. So, down a game, obviously, in the quarterfinals, not in the best position. So this hand, obviously, turn 3 Tron into Wormcoil Engine, so obviously got to keep that. Lead on the Star, they have Polluted Delta and Serum Visions. So now we get to go Sylvan Scrying, draw Spatial Contortion. Some of our games we die to a bunch of beatdowns, so Spatial Contortion I thought was going to be a pretty reasonable one here. Also, it can disrupt the Kiki-Jiki combo because you just kill the Kiki-Jiki, not the Deceiver Exarch. So now, obviously, we play this Thought-Knots here, playing around possibly Mana Leak or something like that, because obviously we don't know entirely what's in their deck. It gets remanded, we play the Relic, start relicking them. They don't have the Field of Ruin, so that's super great for us. If we draw a land here, we can play around the remand, but they have Vendilion Clique. They see our hand, which is super, super top-heavy, and now we can just play anything freely. We crack this, go get the Thought-Knot, see their hand of... Let me just pause there for a second. We see their hand of... Why did you not pause? Alright. Try again. We see their hand of Blood Crypt, Snapcaster Mage, Surgical Extraction, Jace, Opt, and Deceiver Exarch. So we take the Deceiver Exarch here, once again, because if we just let them have the Deceiver Exarch, that's going to be their main win condition here. We have the Surgical Extraction covered with our Relic of Progenitus, same with the Snapcaster Mage with our Relic of Progenitus. Jace the Mind Sculptor is like a little bit annoying here. If they drew Xaxi as a land and bounced our Thought-Knots here, that's like kind of unfortunate, but we have access to Ulamog next turn anyways with the Expedition map, so I found that the Jace wouldn't be doing anything, and then Opt is just out of whatever Opt. So we're going to get to Ulamog unless they draw Xaxis a Field of Ruin here, so obviously that's kind of where we want to be. They attack us for 3. They drew the land, but that's only after opting. So get the tower, play the tower, hold up the open mana for Relic of Progenitus, obviously, just in case, and we Ulamog here, killing their 2 lands. Go get... I believe we got another Thought-Knots here. Yeah, Thought-Knots here. Go to our next phase, force them to do something. So if they have the Snapcaster here, we can just very easily Relic them, which we do. And now we attack for 4. If they had the Lightning Bolt here, I don't think it was that big of a deal. We have this Ulamog, which should kill them next turn, or basically anyways, so they concede because obviously they can't play any spells. Alright, game 3, we're on the draw. We see this hand, obviously turn 3 Tron, can't ever mulligan it. We don't have any like big mana spells, but we have 4 like chromatic abilities, so it'll get us there eventually, and we can draw any of our green cards as well. They lead on Blood Crypt Go, which seems like a poor keep from them because I think Blood Crypt is probably their worst land in their deck, but obviously now we've drawn Natural Tron, so we can pretty freely just crack all these spheres non-stop as we're just looking for more gas. They play an end-step Snapcaster Mage, get their beatdown on, and from there they Surgical Extraction my Chromatic Sphere, which is a bit interesting, obviously. That's a bit aggressive, so it leads me to believe they either have a second one in their hand, or they just have nothing in their hand. So they get another Chromatic Sphere out of our hand, which is unfortunate for us. Play the Thought-Knots here, they have the remand, we get to play the map and sacrifice it. Going to get another tower, which allows us to play both the Thragtusk and the Thought-Knots here next turn. They draw the Field of Ruin, which is the worst case scenario for us. But we still have the Expedition map, so it's not really the end of the world. So we obviously just crack this, try and find some nicer cards. draw Sylvan Scrying, which is the best possible. So now we get to play the Thought-Knot Seer, see their hand. Let's pause it there. We see their hand of... Alright, so it's Mountain, Negate, Lightning Bolt, Kiki-Jiki, Vendilion Clique. So the negate obviously does nothing for us, nothing for them, because we don't have any spells we can actually negate. The lightning bolt, yeah, sure, it allows them to trade here freely, but I don't really think that's a big deal considering we have the Thragtusk. The Kiki-Jiki is obviously a problem, because obviously if they draw the Deceiver Exarch, it's going to be a problem, but they still need to draw the Deceiver Exarch and another land. And then I took the Vendilion Clique here because if they get the Vendilion Clique or Thragtusk here, we really don't have any sort of pressure because of the Lightning Bolt there, so they can just trade with this freely, and then they can just beat us down with the Vendilion Clique, and we don't really have much going on. So I took the Vendilion Clique here. They obviously don't attack because we know they have the Lightning Bolt. Draw Relic of Progenitus. Draw Thragtusk, which is super excellent. They don't negate our Relic Progenitus, which is okay with us. We allow them to Lightning Bolt here, which I don't think is a big deal, because we have the Thragtusk, like we said. It draws them another card. They draw Opt, hoping to draw Remand, obviously. They do not, so our Thragtusk lands. So now that we know their hand is Negate, Kiki-Jiki, and a couple mystery cards. They draw the land. So now it'll be problematic if they have Xaxis to discard the Deceiver Exarch. However, now we have Walking Ballista. Attack them down to 10. We play the Walking Ballista for 2 because it deals with the Kiki-Jiki, as well as play the Thragtusk, which puts them dead on board. We Expedition Map because we just want to use our lands. And they just concede because they don't have anything. So yeah, once again, the negate was useless and the Kiki-Jiki didn't do anything either. So on to the semifinals. Semifinals here, we are on the play. One super silly thing about Magic Online is they don't have the new rules where whoever's the higher seed goes first, which overall I think is really stupid, especially for a big tournament like this. You know, if you're higher in the ranks, you should be going first, but obviously it works to our advantage in this scenario because why wouldn't it? However, we have a pretty nice draw here. We don't know what our opponent's playing, so obviously in the dark we keep this hand every single time. I would keep this hand most of the time depending on what matchup it is, but we have 2 Tron lands, we have a Stirrings and a Star to go dig for the last one, and if we find the last one, we have the turn 3 cards, so can't complain. Play the Star. Our opponent chatted with us a lot. I did not chat with him very much. So they play Serum Visions, so that leads me to believe, honestly, they could be really anything. That's one of the most played cards in the format right now. So we Ancient Stirrings, didn't really hit anything. So we took the Ulamog because if we draw, the lands for it, obviously now, based on, before they played the Sleight of Hand, come on, deck. Before the Sleight of Hand, we had a few options. They could have been Izzet Phoenix, Blue Moon, Storm. They could be, like a really bad Grixis Shadowkeep with just Island. So honestly, they honestly could have been anything, so I went with the Ulamog because it's a card that in most of those matchups is going to be very good, but obviously they have this Sleight of Hand, so it's pretty bad for us. But we draw the Tron, and we just jam this Karn Liberated because it can't be countered. They missed on the land drops, which is pretty great for us. We axe that immediately. And they don't have another land, so now we just get to Stone Rain them into Oblivion with the World Breaker and the Karn going at them. They have no lands, and we just get to plus the Karn. And from here it's fairly academic because we just have another Karn. Game 1. So once again, there's another reason like play draw is so important in Modern. So on to game 2. Alright, so game 2, we have a lot of interaction, which is very important in this matchup. We have the Surgical Extraction and the Relic to deal with their Past in Flames combo side. And we have the Spatial Contortion to deal with a Baral or Electromancer, and we have a map to go get something, and we have Interaction and Thought-Knot Seer if we get that far. So if we draw a green source, we have Ancient String. So literally, it is a one-lander. However, we have lots of interaction, and if we draw just even one land, our hand is turned on, and I think it's a reasonable keep. So they have turn 1 Serum Visions. We draw the Forest, which is not that bad at all. We play the Relic, just start getting rid of the graveyard ASAP. They play Baral, and obviously we're just going to immediately Spatial Contortion that. We definitely do not want them to untap with that. Get rid of their Baral. They have Sleight of Hand and an Opt. So they missed on land drops, which is great for us, obviously. Draw Karn, which is not super great here. Ancient Stirrings, we hit a Mine, which is fantastic. Crack a Relic on them, and play the Expedition map. So now next turn, because we played the Expedition map, we have access to cracking it, going to get Thought-Knot Seer. They have a second Baral here, which is unfortunate for us. We use the Relic, get rid of their Sleight of Hand, crack that, play the Thought-Knot Seer. They have the Remand, which is the worst case scenario for us, obviously. They usually only play one Remand, so nothing we can really do it here. We have the Surgical Extraction if they go for the Past in Flames combo, but in general, we're fairly dead here. So they have Manamorphose, they have Opt. However, they fizzle. They just don't draw anything. So obviously super lucky for us. We get to play the Thought-Knot Seer. They have the Unsubstantiate. However, we can just play it again. And we see their hand of Wipe Away, Desperate Ritual, and Grape Shot. So they went off with only having Manamorphose and Opt. So that's pretty ambitious, I will say. They only get to look at 3 cards, and so now they have only reactive cards. So we take the Grape Shot as their main line of winning here, because if they just draw any just like cantrip card, they can just go cantrip into Desperate Ritual, into play any other spell into Grape Shot and kill my Thought-Knot Seer. And if they wipe away my Thought-Knot Seer, it's not really that big of a deal. We can just replay it. We continue to Relic them, and from here their hand is just, well, nothing, honestly. We hold up the mana for Relic, obviously, just in case. So now here, we attack for 4. I'm fairly certain we just play the map, go get Sanctum of Ugin, play the Karn. We still have mana open for this Relic of Progenitus. We go get Emrakul because that's just going to be lights out for them. We exile a card from their hand because we know their hand is this. They get rid of another Baral, unfortunately. They wipe away our Relic. We can't really do anything about it. They Desperate Ritual, going for Gifts Ungiven. That was their draw step for the turn, which is the worst case scenario for us. However, they have to go for this line, which is the Past in Flames and Manamorphose, the usual one, which is 2 rituals, Past in Flames, Manamorphose. And luckily for us, we have the Surgical Extraction. So as soon as they put any spell in the stack, we can just immediately get rid of their Past in Flames, and their hand is only 2 rituals. And from there, they say GG. I think they assault off being like, wow, you have that too. But luckily for us, we managed to beat this matchup. Not a super great matchup, especially since we have to draw reasonably well and they have to draw reasonably poor. We don't have a ton of reaction. We don't have a ton of interaction main deck. We have the Relics, so that's about it. In that matchup, we have to have like a super fast Karn or Ulamog in order to win. In this matchup, we side in the Surgical Extractions, all the removal spells as we need to kill the 2-mana creatures, all the Thought-Knots, the Emrakul, and I don't bring in any of these. They usually don't play Blood Moon anymore. They used to like a long time ago, but they can't play Grafdigger's Cage. Sorry, not Grafdigger's Cage. They can't play Damping Sphere, obviously, because they're a Storm deck. They used to play Blood Moon, but I'm fairly positive most builds don't play Blood Moon anymore, so there's just no point in bringing in Nature's Claim. And obviously we don't bring in Thragtusk because it doesn't do anything. So we take out Worldbreaker because it doesn't actually do anything. We take out the Wormcoil Engines because this is not a matchup where Wormcoil Engine does anything. We take out, I believe, some number of Walking Ballistas and a couple Oblivion Stones. We keep in the Ugins because they could go for the... what's the word? They can go for the... Empty the Warrens kill. I don't actually think the Empty the Warrens is very good against me, as, well, they know I have Oblivion Stone, Ugin, and Walking Ballista, so all of those are very good against that version. So I probably wouldn't bring it in, but it's possible they bring it in. I'm not actually super duper sure. But yeah, obviously we have to keep in some number of sweepers just in case. But yeah. So now we're on to the finals. Against the person we played in, I think it was round number 3, which is the mirror match. So obviously we know it's a mirror match. We are on the draw, so now we're on the opposite side of it where we should have been on the play, but it is what it is. So we mulligan 2-5. We keep this hand, which has an ability to possibly, turn 3 Tron, but we have to draw reasonably lucky, and they kind of just, have it all. We just don't have anything, and yeah, we just die. They have turn 3 Karn, and obviously we are just super toast. Game number 2. We have a reasonable hand. It doesn't have the turn 3 Wormcoil Engine. Sorry, not Wormcoil Engine. It doesn't have the turn 3 Karn. It does have a possibility of a turn 3 Worldbreaker, which is quite good. It's still exiles a land, which is super important. Or worst case scenario, it's a turn 4 Wormbreaker. I keep saying Worldbreaker. It's a turn 4 Worldbreaker. How are you gonna blow my nose? Just getting over being sick, which obviously is the worst. Anywho, we have a turn 4 Worldbreaker, most likely, given the fact that we have Double Star and Sylvan Scrying, so we just need to draw one piece of Tron. And the only way that they can beat this for the most part is Xaxes turn 4, turn 3, man, my brain is mush, Karn. So we lead on the Star, they lead on nothing, which is obviously very ominous. Crack the Star, we draw a Power Plant, which is not the greatest, but we can Sylvan Scrying, find another Tron piece. We still have 2 more looks at it. They clearly have just drawn the Expedition map for the turn, so now we can pretty safely just go Star, crack Star. They have a Surgical Extraction for Sylvan Scrying, which is a little ambitious by them, but we don't have it, obviously, so we crack another Star, try and draw another threat. Nature's Claim their Expedition map. They don't have Tron. They were really heavily hoping on that map. We have turn 4 Thought-Knot here. And we get to see their hand of Thought-Knot here, Karn, and Sylvan Scrying. So obviously here, the worst case scenario for us is with their hand, they draw Forest, or they draw Natural Tron. So obviously they have 4 outs to draw Natural Tron. Really nothing we can do about that. So obviously we want to minimize them getting Tron as fast as possible. They've already used an Expedition map, so they only have 3 of those in their deck, so it's less likely they'll draw those than Forests or Green Sources, as they have Sphere and Star. So we just take the Sylvan Scrying, hope they don't draw Natural Tron, and yeah, we go from there. Obviously, if they draw a land, they could just have Thought-Knots here, take our Worldbreaker, and we're parity. However, they do not, and we have really nothing at the moment because we don't have Tron. But there's nothing we can really do about this. Now we draw the Dismember, which is nice against the Thought-Knots here. We just attack for 4. They kill their own Walking Ballista to chump block. Kind of surprised in that, considering they're at a pretty high life total. They whiff again on lands. We draw Thragtusk. We just jam the Thragtusk, holding open the Dismember. Now we have a 2-turn clock on their hands. They draw, play Chromatic Sphere, hope to draw Tron. They do not. And now from here it is academic, because no matter what, they are dead. Even if they draw Tron and play Karn, we can beat them. We see their hand of, they just drew the Power Plant off of the Horizon Canopy, but they had already played a land for the turn, so they can't actually do anything. They play the Karn, exile one of my Thought-Knot-Seers, but we still have lethal. Anyways, off to game 3. So for game 3, we're on the draw, unfortunately, and we see this hand. So this hand on the draw, we have turn 1 Sphere into Ancient Stirrings, which obviously can find the second Tron land, or if we get super lucky and draw another land, we have turn 3 Tron, which gives us Thought-Knot-Seer. Emrakul is pretty reasonable in the matchup, but obviously this hand is, for the most part, a mulligan to 6, as Emrakul is not going to be very castable, given our hand. So I keep this hand because it's pretty resilient to the line of, what's it called, Ghost Quarter. And then we have a lot of draw against with the Chromatic Sphere and the Ancient Stirrings, and with the 8 cards we should see with all these cards, we should be able to find a land or two and be able to play the Thought-Knot-Seer early. So we keep this hand. Obviously, if they have the turn 3 Tron, there's really nothing we can do about it. That's just kind of the matchup. Draw a map, which is not that bad, but obviously we're looking for lands here. They crack Star, Ancient Stirrings out, a Horizon Canopy. They play Ghost Quarters, which means they don't have turn 3 Tron, which is obviously very good for us. The Ghost Quarter is annoying, but not the end of the world. They immediately crack my mine, and of course they have Surgical Extraction. So now we don't have... Oh, Jesus. That went really fast. Anyways, I guess I'll catch up. They immediately have the Surgical Extraction and the Ghost Quarter, which means I don't have Tron anymore, and they do. So obviously worst case scenario for us. So now we have to win with basically just like Thought-Knot-Seer and trying to keep them off of Tron. But they don't have Tron because they went Ghost Quarter and then they went Horizon Canopy. So it's very clearly they don't have any more Tron lands in their hand, and they only have 3 more cards, given their hand is most likely went all in on the Surgical Extraction plan. So now we cracked a bunch of, we cracked some Sphere, played some Ancient Stirrings, tried to find more lands to go into this Thought-Knot-Seer. Their turn, they crack a Star, play Sphere Stirrings. We just have to play a land, crack, grab another land, get the Ghost Quarter so they can't get Tron. The Ancient Stirrings for a second tower, play the tower, and pass. So we have 2 options this turn. It's either... We have 2 options this turn. It's either Ghost Quarter them off of Tron, or play Thought-Knot-Seer. And given the fact they only had 4 cards in hand, and we knew what at least one of them was, it was more likely that they probably just didn't have Tron, given the fact that they didn't play any Tron lands until they got one with the Ancient Stirrings. And then the other fact is, if their hand is so low that we can just Thought-Knot-Seer and just take their only threat for the most part. So we Thought-Knot-Seer. Also, it gives us a clock, which is very important. We want to give them the least amount of time physically possible. And we also have another Thought-Knot-Seer. So next turn, we can go Thought-Knot-Seer again and a Ghost Quarter, which should put them off of everything. So we Thought-Knot-Seer them. We see their hand is a Thought-Knot-Seer, a Emrakul, a Nature's Claim, and an Urza's Tower. We take their Thought-Knot-Seer because obviously it's the only castable spell. The rest of the spells don't really matter, and obviously we're hoping they don't draw Tron for this exact turn. However, even if they do draw Tron, they can't actually cast anything. So now we get to Thought-Knot-Seer them and play the Ghost Quarter. Attack them for 4, play the Thought-Knot-Seer. We see their hand again. They drew Surgical Extraction and another Nature's Claim. So now their hand is just Surgical Extraction, 2 Nature's Claims, and Emrakul. So their hand is just completely nothing, and we just win basically. We have 2 Thought-Knot-Seers in play. We got rid of their only threat, and we can Ghost Quarter their Urza's Mine. So from here, the only way they can actually do anything is, honestly, I don't really know. They drew the mine for the turn, which is obviously unfortunate, but from here, we attack them down to 4. We play the Thragtusk. And now, the only card they could draw here is Xaxes. We know they have these 3 cards in their hand, so there's no card they can draw here to prevent them from dying. they can only play a Thought-Knot Seer, they can't play Thrike Tusk. Even if they draw the third Tron piece, they only have Nature's Claims and Surgical Extractions. So from here, they just can't win. And that's it. We win the PTQ. Felt really good. Felt really nice. Yeah, not gonna lie, 100% cried as soon as I won, because that's how much it means to me. But yeah, that was my tournament report for the most part. It's gonna be a long one, as you can all see. But yeah, I don't think I would make too many changes to the deck at the moment. The last minute I swapped out. This was originally a Grafdigger's Cage, but I wanted this member because the rise of Shadow obviously wants me to have more removal spells, and Dismember's a perfect one. Hollow One was seeing a little bit more uptick in play, so I wanted the Dismember for that, and it's also just fine against Bant Spirits and humans. And excuse me, the Grafdigger's Cage wasn't getting sideboard in as much as I'd hoped. Obviously, it's very good against Dredge. It's pretty reasonable against Storm and the Collected Company strategies for the most part. But I wasn't playing it against a lot of them, and I was playing a lot more, humans, a lot more of Grixis Shadow. So made that one switch, and it came up a couple times, which is obviously great. We played against Hollow One and Death Shadow. Didn't do anything against the Death Shadow because they had the Street Wraith and the counter spell, but nothing we can really do much about that. But yeah, Tron is a deck I've enjoyed playing for a long time. It just always has the ability to win out of any situation for the most part. There's only a few matchups that I'm just like, I probably just can't win no matter what, but they are kind of fringe strategies, like Grizzle Shoal, like pretty fringe strategy. Ponza is not a great matchup either. However, mostly fringe strategy. The biggest threats to you are the super fast combo decks, but given our sideboard, we do have a lot of interaction with them, like Storm and KCI. KCI we have a lot of interaction with the Surgical Extractions, the Thought-Knot Seers, the Nature's Claims, and against Storm we have, once again, the Surgical Extractions, the 3 removal spells, the Thought-Knot Seers. So I actually have more of a winning matchup than I have a losing matchup against them. Not by much, but it's still not bad. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm qualified for the Pro Tour London, so that'll be a super awesome time. It's in April. Can't play any more PTQs or anything like that, which is kind of unfortunate because I actually enjoy playing them. And I originally was qualified for the RPTQ, but can't play that now since I'm already qualified. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed. I figured this was a lot cooler than just doing like a write-up or whatever, because you get to see my thought process, you get to go through my plays with me, and yeah, hope you all enjoyed. See you guys next time.